12 novels, 9 short stories, 23 films, and 61 years after the birth of 007, the most recent Bond film, Skyfall, became the highest-grossing film in Sony Pictures history, grossing over $1 billion. It's uncommon for franchises to enjoy such longevity. Usually, film series start with a bang and then face diminishing returns with every release afterwards. But many factors work in Mr. Bond's favor to ensure the ever-evolving franchise's success.
Everybody needs a hobby.
So what's yours?
Resurrection.
Bond was made by British author, journalist, and naval intelligence officer Ian Fleming. Fleming took the name for his character from the American ornithologist James Bond. He said, "It struck me that this brief, unromantic, Anglo-Saxon, and yet very masculine name was just what I needed." The Bond franchise has featured a total of 6 actors throughout its history on the big screen. Each actor brings something special of their own to the role, but without a doubt, each one represents the ideal man, transforming according to societal ideals of masculinity specific to each decade.
Bond. James Bond.
The rugged Sean Connery was the first actor to bring Ian Fleming's James Bond to the movie screen in Dr. No in 1962. Connery is a sarcastic womanizer. He carries an air of confidence and masculine grace. Roger Moore, on the other hand, encompasses a more irrational and aggressive 007 who smiles in the face of danger.
You missed Mr. Bond. Did I?
And so the transition moves through each 007 from Pierce Brosnan's charming demeanor to the full-on badass Bond that Daniel Craig becomes, serious, cold, and tortured. Bond, no matter the actor, is an icon of masculinity in its purest, most ideal form. Bond captures female and male fantasies. He's strong, loyal, bold, persevering, and physically attractive, and fashion-forward. He's got all the cars and gadgets a man can dream about. He's a womanizer, but also a gentleman.
For the gentleman, vodka martini, shaken, not stirred.
Touche.
He provides protection, safety, and security for the woman in his life. His relationships with men are honest and often based on a shared sense of danger.
What do you do at the consulate field?
That's not important. My orders are to turn you around and put you on the first plane back to London.
Those orders include my friend Mattis.
I'm sorry, I don't know who you are.
You see that? Gone such a short time, already forgotten.
You're just saying that to hurt me.
Bond is a man's man while still representing the man women love to love. A very interesting component of the Bond revolution is not the masculinity itself, but the culture norms and societal ideals that each Bond represents, and their words and actions that represent Western society's progress to what it is today. Prevailing attitudes of the times when Bond first began don't often match with modern ones. Starting with Connery's Dr. No, 52 years later analyzing Craig's era of Bond, the transition is staggering. Umberto Eco analyzed Fleming's written works and noted that the Bond villains tend to come from Central Europe or from Slavic or Mediterranean countries that have a mixed heritage. Fleming's novels feature quite a great deal of racism. Fleming writes, "Goldfinger took the cat from under his arm and tossed it to the Korean, who caught it eagerly. I am tired of seeing this animal around. You may have it for dinner." In the film You Only Live Twice, Bond is required to become a Japanese, which seems to involve taping back his eyes, putting on a wig, tanning his skin, and then marrying a Japanese girl. For anybody who has read the Bond novels, the African-American characters depict many of the stereotypes associated with their race. The Cuban women look like monkeys in their dresses, and all the black characters talk like Jamaican people. Without a doubt, these past mentioned and many other Bond films depict racism. But as the Bond films evolve to adhere to modern society's views, the franchise is slowly moving away from the racist Mr. Bond. For example, Felix Leiter is an American CIA agent who frequently works with James Bond. In the novels, Leiter is described as a straw-haired Texan with a hawk nose. Jack Lord and Sek Linder previously played the role. They were both white men. But in the latest Casino Royale, the character is played by Jeffrey Wright, which shows us that Bond's character has evolved, ridding himself of his past racist views. Jeffrey Wright's Felix is one of the few men that Bond trusts. Their friendship grows and becomes more evident when Wright makes a reappearance in Quantum of Solace. There's even talk of Bond actor being played by a black man. Idris Elba, an actor from Gone in Descent, has been fighting rumors that he will play the next Bond.
Do I make myself clear?
Yes, sir.
Good.
It's only a matter of time until the iconic Bond character reflects society's increasing acceptances of all races and sexualities. Fleming casted his homophobic perspective onto his Bond character. He wrote, Bond came to the conclusion that Tilly Masterson was one of those girls whose hormones had got mixed up. Pansies of both sexes were everywhere. The result was a herd of unhappy sexual misfits, barren and full of frustrations. He was sorry for them, but he had no time for them. In the film You Only Live Twice, the characters of Mr. Wint, played by Putter Smith, and Mr. Kidd, was played by Bruce Glover, play a pair of murderous henchmen who are presented as being a gay couple. The whole subplot surrounding the couple has a distinct theme of homophobia, and the list goes on. But, interestingly enough, the latest and most successful Bond film, Skyfall, features the villain Silva, played by Javier Bardem. Bardem Silva is clearly flirting with 007.
Well, first time for everything. Yes.
What makes you think this is my first time?
The scene sparked many rumors that Bond himself could quite possibly be homosexual, which was absolutely out of the question just a few years ago. But think about it for a moment. Could it be true? James Bond displays many of the cliché indicators of being gay. He is neat and meticulous, very fashion-forward individual who puts a great deal of effort into the way he looks.
It's tailored.
James gets along with women and seems to be able to understand them, part of his appeal to his female audience. Granted, he has a womanizer reputation, but that is also an indicator of his potential homosexuality. When gay men are ashamed of their sexuality or refuse to accept it, some try to hide it by using women to cover it up, sleeping with countless women and finding it difficult to become attached, showing little affection just as Bond does.
Wouldn't kill me. It miss me.
Bond is also perceived as an aggressive character. Aggressive diction and behavior is also channeled towards gay and lesbian people in Bond's earlier years. This can also sometimes be a sign of a homosexual male hiding behind homophobic tendencies.
The name's Bond.
Daniel Craig's co-star, Naomi Harris, who plays Bond girl Eve in the new movie Skyfall, says she is more than open to the idea of a homosexual Bond.
Now that's better.
James Bond is a multi-billion-dollar franchise. Its hugely powerful media has great power in shaping society. Can you imagine how profound the impact would be if Bond turned out to be a homosexual male? Naomi even went one step further when she suggested that Bond could even be played by a woman in a future film. Another indicator that the sexual politics are not so rooted in the 1960s, but moving forward to reflect the 21st century ideals.
Mr. Smith & Wesson. And you've had your six.
If Bond continues to move in the direction it currently is, it will begin to feature more universal views that do not only appeal to mainstream audience, but to every category of audience that receives media.
Dry martini.
Bond is a role model to many young men, the essence of masculinity, a dream man for women everywhere.
Oui, monsieur.
Wait. 3 measures of Gordon's, 1 of vodka, half a measure of quinoa lily, shake it over rice, and then add a thin slice of lemon peel.
Yes, sir.
The 007 franchise has a huge amount of influence. Through progressively rejecting homophobia and racism, the Bond character's ever-evolving moral beliefs will no doubt be reflected by society.